Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I see you guys are slowly coming through the waiting room. It's wonderful to have, how's it, Bonnie? Hi, Candace. Hi, Charlene. Yeah, I can see everyone starting to come through from the room. Welcome to our Bookmarks 2021 workshop. As always, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. We are recording and we'll be sharing the recording shortly. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Paula Halley and I'm the CEO of the IAB South Africa. The IAB is the proud host of the Bookmark Awards that started about 13 years ago. Yes, 2021 is our 13th year. We're thrilled to have with us some of our representatives from the Bookmarks Committee, and you'll be meeting them in the Q&A and through various sections or segments in our workshop today. So let me just introduce them. We have Matthew Arnold, who's the Chief Connections Officer from VML, and he is the head of our Bookmarks Committee and will be taking us through the categories and criteria. We have Sneh, who's from the Luries team, who is going to be taking us through the entry site. I think most of you are quite familiar with it, but let's go through that and see if you've got any questions there. We have Jessica van der Westhuizen. Jessica is the head of digital marketing and performance at One Day Only. He was an IAB member, and Jessica also heads up our brand council at the IAB. So super to have Jess here representing brands and any questions there today. And Jess has obviously also been part of the Bookmarks Committee. We're definitely keeping Jess busy. The same for Lazuko. I welcome Lazuko Tena, who's here, the lead of our IAB Youth Action Council, also on the Bookmarks Committee alongside Tsecho Fetle and China from Joe Public. It's wonderful to have the Youth Action Council on the committee helping us to guide and keep the bookmarks fresh. We've got Danilo from Special Effects Media, who's there in the background helping us with the Q&A, and I hope I haven't forgotten anyone else who's on the call with us. With no further ado, let's get cracking on our agenda. My aim is to have you off and away back to your work schedule, hopefully well before 11:30. I'm going to do a quick welcome and then we'll get right into the detail on the categories and criteria. And then, as mentioned, we'll follow through with the rest of the agenda with some Q&A at the end. In terms of the Q&A, you'll see on Zoom, on the webinar format, that you can either raise your hand, there's a little hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you raise your hand, I'll notice that and we will ask you live to share, put on your video, pop on your mic, or just pop on your mic and you can ask your questions live to the committee and myself. Or you're more than welcome to use the Q&A function. So that's where you can type in your question and then we'll manage that in the Q&A section at the end. So otherwise, yeah, we're going to get cracking. Thank you for joining us today. Oh, that's not good. Phones, it's all happening. Okay, so just before we start, always a thank you to our sponsors. DSTV Media Sales are our naming rights partner for the bookmarks and the 5 to 6 month campaign leading up until the 29th of July. And then, of course, we have other partners. We have 24.com, who are a proud sponsor. We have Joe Public, another sponsor, as well as Everlytic and Biz Community as partners. And in terms of the IAB, as I mentioned, we've been hosting the Bookmark Awards for the last 13 years. And we're very proud to do so. And for us, it is the ultimate platform for benchmarking of digital excellence. I won't read out who the IAB is, but just in case this is a snapshot of who we are. I think the most important thing is that the work that we do is really celebrated in the bookmarks. So in terms of all our categories, the way we measure through performance and creativity, strategy, craft, these are all our ways of helping to benchmark and showcase digital excellence in the marketing ecosystem. So as I mentioned, it's 13 years of recognizing and rewarding digital excellence. We have had almost 100 judges or industry experts over those years looking at the work and selecting and voting in the best work that you see win on the evening of our awards. We've been very proud over the last 2 years to have over 50% of our judging panels being female and moving our transformation objectives, and they are on track. We ask a lot of our judges, and we'll be exciting to announce them by the end of March, including our jury chairs. And I'll chat a bit about the timing of that judging process and announcing our finalists as well, just so you've got that in your pockets. And in terms of entries, we've managed to increase those year on year, and we're excited for the year ahead that we're chatting about today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Matt Arnold, who'll be taking us through the categories. And from there, we'll move on into panel and then onto how to enter. Thank you, Matt.
Great, thanks, Paula. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to take you through just quickly how we've sort of revamped the bookmarks a little bit for 2021 and what big changes there have been. So the most important thing is we just had a look at how bookmarks is positioned and what our strategy is going to be for this year. And Paula, you can jump to the next slide. So really what we looked at, the bookmarks have always celebrated innovation, creativity, and effectiveness. And it's become the unrivaled benchmark of local digital advertising excellence. So that's really fantastic. But what's changed a lot is the world of advertising is continually shifting. Digital's grown and changed, and it's no longer in its adolescence, celebrating small tactical sparks and fun campaigns. It's a really serious channel that delivers real business results for our brands and companies. So what we do is we need the bookmarks to really stand for more than just great digital work. We wanted to really see this as a flagship to drive digital change in our industry. So winning a Bookmark Award is really a recognition of work that helps move our industry forward. And that's something that's really important for us. That's helping shift the way we're using channels, media, marketing to upweight digital and to really reflect some of those changes that we're expecting to see from a diversity point of view, from a knowledge and growth point of view, as well as with just really, really fantastic digital work. So that's kind of what we're focusing on is really looking at how we can recognize and celebrate work that moves our industry forward on all of those fronts. And there's three key ways that we're doing this in the Bookmark Awards and also in all the work the IAB is doing around bookmarks, knowledge, and education going forward. So we're aiming to showcase the best work and talent in the industry. We really want to help define work that we should aspire to as an industry, work that really works in terms of efficiency. So we've got lots of content coming around that, workshops like this that really help us unpack that. And obviously it needs to be a platform for focused learning and improvement. So helping to set those benchmarks, helping to look at what you need to do to get there, to sort of be able to produce the work that we all want to be proud of on a South African scale. So some changes that we've made to categories. I think this is a little granular detail, but really important to note. So there's two categories that we've removed out of 2021. The first is content strategy. So we've moved that out and you'll see that we've changed it basically to content marketing strategy. So we've kind of adjusted that a little bit. We've also removed user generated content as it didn't feel like it needed a standalone category for that anymore. And there's a lot less of those campaigns happening in the last couple of years. So the new categories that we've added, the content marketing strategy I've mentioned, that's really important. We've also added a craft award for excellence in content marketing. So seeing a lot more of that happen in the industry locally and globally. And the last piece is a new craft category for voice experience design, which is really around podcasts and digital audio advertising and craft. So that's new categories that we've added. Then what we've done is we've published a new format in terms of being able to check all of the different categories and criteria. So this is live on the website and there's a document to download which looks like this. It very easily lays out each of the categories, for example, platforms, each of the different entries that you can go into, for example, brand, commercial, and retail websites. It's got information around what that is and isn't, some examples as well. It references which jury panel is going to judge that. I'll touch on the jury panels in a second. And on the right-hand side, it'll have materials and criteria, so what you need to submit and how it's going to be rated for that particular category. It is important to note that those category criteria rankings do change per category. So some of them are upweighted in creativity, others on effectiveness, depending on what's relevant for the category. So please make sure when you're going through entries that you've checked all of these out and you know specifically what you're entering in and what you need to tailor your entry for. So changes to the criteria. There's just one thing that we've added in the channel category for 2021. We've added the need for you when you're entering on the system to put your core objective and your core metric to measure that objective. And that's really important, specifically in the channel category, because it helps the judges evaluate what the purpose of that campaign is and what the results were. Because quite often there's confusion around that. And a whole bunch of metrics just put on an entry that's difficult to really evaluate, was this a great piece of work or not? So we're adding that to the channel category to help streamline that process and help hopefully improve your conversion rates if you're giving us the correct information there. All the other criteria is remaining the same as 2020, so you should be familiar with that.
Thanks, Matt. Maybe just to add, it's Paula. I think, yeah, you as the committee lead in 2019 going into the 2020 awards did a huge revamp and cleanup in terms of our the criteria. So it's great to see that consistency coming through. And yeah, I just think it's really great to be able to include this extra piece for the channel group category that largely sits in the performance panel. So I think, yeah, excellent.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Paula. And then in the panels with the judges, we've made some changes there. So we've actually done away with the gaming panel itself and rather moved the gaming category into the innovative engineers panel, which is helping us streamline that a little bit. The gaming panel, well, the gaming category is still a little bit niche locally. So what we've done is we've moved that in under the innovative engineers, which shares a very similar sort of understanding and skill set for developing games, platforms, and other innovative categories. And then the last point here is we've added a new panel this year, which is the Youth Action Panel. It's got just one category, which is really focused around the best digital youngster. And I'm going to ask Luzuko to chat a little bit around the thinking behind this Youth Action Panel and why we've created it.
Thank you very much, Matt. Just a slight correction. I think it's the category's best digital student, and then not the youngster one. But I think
that's correct, Luzuko. Yes.
All right, perfect. And then, but I think essentially with this council, the idea really is obviously as a Youth Action Council, we kind of have this overall sort of all kind of goal to really see an increase, I guess, young people's active participation within the industry, and really do stuff as a council that really speaks to the youth, but is also created and is owned by the youth. And really, I think in 2021 as a council, we've kind of looked at our focus areas and various things which we think we can sort of like, we can help in impacting and having an influence in how the industry is transforming and overall transformation. And I think through that, really our three focus areas for that are education, access, and allyship, especially sort of building and growing that allyship amongst not only just young people, but also the older and younger generations as well. And I think what this new panel really brings is an opportunity that really speaks to the first thing I mentioned, which is obviously platforms which are for the youth, by the youth, but also really speaks to kind of a project or something that ticks all the boxes of our focus areas, where it's an opportunity for sort of young people within the industry to kind of, for lack of a better term, be fast-tracked into the judging and jury process and really learn the ins and outs and what it takes to kind of judge an award show, especially one as big as the Bookmarks. I think also it also acts as a platform really to kind of grow and build access again for young people within the industry at the highest levels and to participate at the highest levels of the industry. Obviously, the ideal goal obviously is to see this grow, not just for us to kind of, I guess, own and be sort of set to this one category, but also kind of hopefully break through into the other categories where certain exceptions or whatnot can sort of be made for younger people or less experienced people to kind of enter those panels. And I think the third thing about allyship really is just about having a platform where it's solely for young people, so that we kind of don't have that something that really kind of forces us. We have something that really, I guess, strengthens the sense of allyship even amongst us as young people, so that we kind of learn more to work, I guess, with one another from our various sort of companies and whatnot, as opposed to kind of the high sense of competition against one another, which we may have because there may be sort of a scramble to kind of get into kind of these older sort of panels and whatnot, or more established ones, the sooner the better. So I think what this panel really does is it really gives us an opportunity to foster that allyship amongst one another, because we're working together to kind of impact and influence the next generation of the industry, which in terms of I guess relevance and who they speak to are probably the closest to us as well. So yeah, I think that's really the main thing about this council is that. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lazuko. I think that it's fantastic to see that the Youth Council making these suggestions and seeing them brought into platforms, long-established platforms like the Bookmarks. So we're very excited about the new panel. And I think linking very closely to our education and transformation objectives across the IAB as a whole. So yeah, a huge thank you for that. So in order to get into a bit of the detail around the categories and how to enter, Snare is going to be taking us through the site. So Snare, if you can, I'm going to stop sharing, and if you can share your screen. And while you're doing that, I'll just share a note with the attendees in terms of the two sites that we have. So yeah, thanks, Snare, if you can share your screen. So we obviously have the bookmarks.coza, that is the Bookmarks website. You can go there to find the timeline, get a sense of when we announce the judges, when we announce the finalists, that is where we announce all that information. You can also link to the entry site. So for those of you who don't know, we partner with the Luries. So this site might look very familiar to those who have entered the Luries before. But I think for the last sort of 5 or 6 years, we've partnered with the Luries to use the technical back end of the entry award structure. Some may not know just how complex it is in terms of the back end of awards and making sure that everything is transparent and fair. So a huge thank you to the Luries technical team for making that possible, and to Snare who leads that for us at the Bookmarks. So over to you, Snare. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Paula. I have shared my screen, and I've also just copied the link from the website to the chat, so that whoever is joining us today can follow if they like. So as you can see, this is just basically the homepage. This is before you get to the login stage, where you'll see the quick guide, the rules, the fees, the categories, all of your categories listed here on the right, how judging works, create entry help, and basically just the terms and conditions. I won't be getting too much into that detail. So what you would have done at this point is you would have already maybe just reviewed your categories and have sort of seen which work best fits the category here. And there's also references to work here on the category. So you can just also make use of the work that is referenced in any of the specific categories. At this point, you would then just go to the login button. So you would log in as you would be ready to submit your entry. Okay, so create new entry. Okay, so here you have all of your categories, and you have your categories on the left-hand side as well as the fees. So just for the purpose of this webinar, I'm just going to select any one of the categories here. And then the pop-up that you'll see after selecting your category is what is required for you the media that is required for you to enter the category. And please just pay special attention to this, because should you sort of upload a piece of material that is not required for that category, it won't let you select the finalize button if the incorrect media type is uploaded for that category. So you will continue at this stage, and then you'll be presented with an entry form that you will need to complete. So for the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to just quickly complete this. And you can always come back to your description. Say that you want to just get your entry completed and pay for, especially just within the entry deadline period, the early bird period. You can always come back to the description and the credits at a later stage. So you'll save and continue.
Snare, sorry, it's Paula. Can you just go back? Are you able to go back a screen?
Yes.
Or have I? I just wanted to highlight the importance. Well, all these pieces are important, but I think if you just scroll down, yes, so just above credits. So I think what's important here, as Sneh mentioned, is that if you would like to take advantage of the early bird fee, and we'll share those fees in a moment, you can enter in the topic, you can pay for the awards, and you can come back in when you have time before the deadline to enter it all in. You don't have to have all this information complete by the time the entry fee, the early bird is done. So I think take advantage of that. I think that's one of the biggest tips we can offer you today, is to upload the header of your entry, get maybe 1 or 2 of the assets up or the descriptions, pay for the entry, and then come back when you're ready with your final case study video or one-pager or whatever it might be. And then I think just further down in terms of credits, if we can ask you, please remember, these are the credits that appear on your, when you win, obviously you're going to win. But maybe terms and conditions apply there, I'll refrain. If you win, the credits are what appear on screens or on your Pixel or on your certificate. So please make sure that the right people are credited. And if you are sharing credits with another company, at some point, it's probably a good idea to copy and paste these and pop it onto them and to check that you've got it right. And then just when you've got a moment to make sure that the credits are right. So you've got a bit more time for those. And I think it's well worth making sure that the right names are printed on your awards should you win. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight those 2 pieces there. Thank you, Sneh. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Paula. Okay, so you can always, as Paula has just mentioned, you can always come back to the description or the credits. Yeah, the best thing you can do for yourself here is just take advantage of the early bird period and get your entries paid for to get the early bird discount. Okay, from the entry form where you fill in your entry title, description, credits, and all of that stuff, you'll be presented with a page where you need to upload your media. So this is, even if you may not already have the media at this stage, if you want to beat the early bird pricing, you may or may not even have the media at this point. If not, it's not a problem. You can always just click on save to continue. I will come back to this page to show you how you would then upload your material. So once you've selected click on continue from the previous page where you would upload your media, you would be presented with an entry dashboard that works more like an online shopping cart, if you will. So I will then be guided by the ticks on the screen. So if I've completed my credits, the tick will be green, description, linked media, likely, as well as confirm. So confirm is for the entry confirmation, which is very important. That is just like your entry indemnity that needs to be signed by either your ECD or CEO or anyone on that level. So you would just need to click on here, and then you'll be presented with a list of PDF documents that you can, save and archive for your records. This is your entry summary. This lists all of your entries with the barcodes, credits, titles, and all of that stuff. Your entry labels, should you need to send any physical material, which won't be relevant for the show. Package labels are sort of the same. And then your entry confirmation is what would need to be signed as an entry indemnity by your superior. You would then go back and come to uploading your media. So you would obviously click on the linked media column, where it will take you to the upload screen. So you will then click on link or remove media. And this will take you to a page where it'll give you a little uploader block. You can either, if you haven't uploaded any material, you'll just click on add files and it'll take you to a location on your computer where your files are stored. I already have uploaded files on my media gallery. So this is like your media gallery. Everything that you have uploaded will sit here. And if you like, you can just drop everything into your uploader and then select all the media that is relevant to the specific entry that you are uploading. So because I want to link this overview video and this one pager here, I will click these 2 and then select update entry, and that will attach this media to the entry I have just submitted. And then I will need to click on the complete button as a cross-check to say that I have met the media requirements for this entry. This refers to the pop-up that you would have seen after selecting your category as to which media elements are required for a specific category. So you would then click Save and Continue. You'll be taken back to your dashboard. And as you can see, where I had the red X, where I hadn't uploaded my media, now that my media is uploaded, I have a green tick. All I would need to do is check out and then get my ECD or CEO to sign the entry confirmation. So let's come back here. So I will select, say this is, you can select all of your entries so that they're on one invoice, so that you're able to get the early bird discounts if you do pay your entries for your entries within the early bird discounted period. So and you can select entries that still have, you can select entries for payment that still have incomplete elements according to credits, description, and link media. So I will select all of my entries here, and then I will click on checkout. And upon clicking on the checkout button, it'll give me an entry summary and an entry confirmation that I can always sign and upload at a later stage. I will click on next. Okay, it's now taken me to an invoice page where, so if you want to add more entries on this invoice, you can click here, and then you'll just duplicate the entries and then just submit and then pay for them all at once. So I will just pay for these two right now. Confirm, proceed to offline payment. And then this is where you will, at this point, you will then send the invoice to your finance department for them to process the payment. And yeah, your entries, this is your invoice. And then you can always come back to your dashboard and complete all the other elements that you need to complete to submit and get your entry finalized.
Great, thanks, Nair. So I think probably the most important thing to start with is to have a look at the categories and criteria and start to see what you want to enter. Have a look at the budget. We'll go through the costs for the entries now, see what that is, and then upload those choices into the dashboard. Obviously, if there aren't green ticks, like you're saying, it doesn't matter. You then click checkout, and that'll put it all on one invoice. I'm sure your financial manager and ours will be thrilled if it's all on one invoice with your codes on, so we can find out who paid what. And then you understand that everything's batched and ready. You've got the best deal possible to showcase your work, and then plot out on a timeline when you can come in and address each of those different areas that you need to upload. And obviously not forgetting to get that sort of CEO or MD approval on the final entry as part of your submission. I think maybe now might even be a good time, if anyone's got any immediate questions for Snare. Obviously we've got a Q&A in a little bit, but if you do have an immediate question, just, I don't know if you want to raise your hand or just take your mic off and ask a question. You're more than welcome. Maybe something you've struggled with previously or something you didn't catch and would like to ask. Nothing. I think, Snare, one of the main questions that we get asked is in terms of the entries. There's the one pager, which I believe needs to be a JPEG, and people do get a bit stuck in terms of the file format. Can you just chat to us about those file formats just while we've just come out of the of your process? Right. Thanks.
I have also just sent my email address in the chat. Should anyone wish to email me about any bookmarks related entry queries, feel free to email me at any time, and I will have those attended to. So yes, the media formats, it's very important. So we have JPEGs / one pager. So you can so the one pager is sort of like an overview JPEG. how you have a case study video, you can, on the overview JPEG / one pager, you can have the execution, the solution, the results, everything that sort of highlights and encapsulates how the idea, how your entry comes together. And then you'll have an overview video, a case study video, which is pretty self-explanatory. And then you'll have an original content video for any original content that will be sort of like supporting material to your overview video or your case study board. And then we have, because we do have a category for podcast and audio streaming, you could wish to also upload an audio file if you will be sort of entering that category. And what's also important to pay attention to is the specifications. If you're on the entry site, as well as the entry guide or categories documents, you'll see that we have specifications for video, audio, film, and all of that stuff. Because should you upload a JPEG that's like not as per the specifications, because I know JPEGs are 7,063 by 5,008, if I'm correct. So if you do upload anything that is not as per those specifications, you should expect to get an error on the system. So it is important to pay attention to that kind of detail.
Great, thanks, Sneh. I think that's very helpful, because when there's, most people are usually rushing, they've got loads of things to do, they want to make sure everything's done, and they hit these little errors, and it's great to have those toolkits. Candace, I did see you. Sorry, I asked a question as yours came through. So, do you want to just unmute yourself and ask away?
Hi, everyone. It's so great to actually get this all overview, because it really saves time at the last minute at midnight when you're trying to submit. So thank you very much for all the heads up. May I ask, when you are collaborating with another company in terms of submitting, like multiple agencies or technology enablers, do you submit under your own name, and how do they get the recognition?
Sneh, I mean, you're more than welcome to build on this from your experience with Lurie's, but I think certainly in terms of the questions we've answered previously, if you're choosing to enter together, so you're both sharing the cost for the awards,
Yes.
Then you've got all those different credits, and you would enter as, Mobitainment and the other company, if you're looking to share at that level. And then you'll see there are a whole lot of fields in terms of the credits for all the different people and the roles that are played in those awards and in that particular entry. And you would then make sure that the right people and their titles and company were credited there. I think sometimes the complication comes in when a brand or an agency chooses to enter, they're paying for it, and they did work with different partners, and potentially they've entered on their own and they've paid for it. So I guess what I've seen in the past is that it's always probably best to consult with those people that worked on the project with you, and to tell them that you're entering and that you're paying for it, and therefore this is the way the credits are going. And if you want to share the credits, then this is our process and this is our timeline. Because I can imagine, in some cases we see there are 3 or 4 parties who are combined in an entry, and just to navigate that as the person entering would be quite tricky. So I'll definitely be thinking about it up front. I think it depends on who's paying for it, but I would definitely check in with your partners and collaborators on how they see it, better than dealing with it at the end after it's announced. Sneh, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that in terms of the credits.
Cool.
Yeah, just maybe on the just sharing entries, and maybe you'll have 2 entities submitting the same piece of work. So that would we would flag that as a query on our side, because the entry would then be a duplicate. So we would sort of consult with one of the entities to say, just amongst yourselves, have a discussion to say which of the entities will be proceeding with the entry, and then also just discuss on how the credits will be shared, because we do have a credit system set up, and we do have shared credits on the back end. So you can just upon discussing, you can just say, okay, fine, this is how we're going ahead with the credits, and then this will be a shared credits XY company / this company. So I
think Candace, maybe, sorry, do you want to ask something else?
I just wanted to, and having your actual name printed on the trophy, and you are sharing cost with collaborating companies, how would we just let you know that, or?
I think, well, firstly, you would enter that in the credits. So in the top, there's the line in terms of the agency, like you would enter
And
both names there.
Thanks.
That's the brief for the pixels, but there is no harm in letting us know as well, because this is the team, and there are no magic other people in the background, so we can make sure that happens. It's always good to know. But yeah, it's that field that you would enter. Yeah, and I think something else to maybe note, I think if you're looking at a particular entry and someone has worked on, I'm just making this up, let's say it was a website and there was a particular piece of innovative coding that was happening with that website. So if the main agency was potentially entering it in under platforms, under brand, commercial and retail, in that category, PLT01, you could enter as a co-credit. And then you could also, if it's a particularly good experience and that piece of code is very innovative, you could also look at the at a potentially in the craft categories, or in the I'm just having a look here using this example, where you could then actually enter it again, but for that specific piece of code for that website, and make sure that that particular piece of code set had even more attention in that category. So also have a look at, yes, you're entering for a particular platform, particularly when you collaborate, you've collaborated with people for a very particular reason, whether it's for user experience or, like I said, a piece of innovation in a code set or AI or whatever that might be, and have a look for the other categories to make sure that you've kind of look at those niche opportunities to win if the work is obviously particularly great. And then definitely check out special honors. I mean, for IAB members, that is a free category, so have a look at if there's any crossover there. So if the work, for example, especially over the time of COVID, particularly demonstrated what we call pixel for purpose, so you've entered it in as a website, you potentially entered it in under craft or with a piece of special engineering in terms of the code, and then as a free bonus, you can enter it for no cost at all into special honors under pixel for purpose. So I think, yeah, definitely have a look at the kind of work you're entering when you're collaborating, and to see where else that particular niche innovation or craft can turn up in terms of multiple wins on a great piece of work. Candice, that was a very long answer, but I just chose to sneak in a few extra things with your question to help those who might also be thinking the same thing. Did that raise any other questions for anyone else on shared credits or how to credit your work? Thanks, Candice, for acknowledging that. Okay, great. Sneh, if you can just hang on, don't go anywhere, because I'm sure there might be some questions in the Q&A. So let me just get back to the presentation. Excuse my desk. Okay, there we go. Can you all see? Can someone just give me a shout out if you can see the presentation? There we go. So in terms of our entries, I see some chats coming through. Thank you. Great, thanks. In terms of the entry timeline, I think most of you will have seen this. We have extended the entry period. I know that one does tend to leave it till the last minute because there is so much going on, but we did open up the early bird entries for a full month, as opposed to just the usual sort of 2.5 weeks. We understand everyone's financial constraints, and really just trying to do our best as a platform to enable celebration of the best work in digital through some of these levers. So the early bird entries is from the 1st of March until the end of March. As we mentioned, it's quite strategic for you to go through the categories to understand your work, look at the budget, look at the fees. I'll take you through those in a second, and just to see, get those uploaded into the system so that you don't have to be penalized for the late entries. And really, the reason why that's there is not because we're anything else other than the fact that this team, including the Lurie's team, need to process all the entries. So we usually get upwards of 700 entries. Typically 90% of those can come through in the late entry fee period. It's almost next to impossible to process that many entries all at one time. So the reason for the fees is obviously to provide you with some nice discounts and to share some financial relief, and to make sure that we can showcase your work. And they're even free, as I mentioned, free entries and free categories. But it's also to help the processing on the back end and to make sure, you know, we can phase that over time. So we really do endorse for you to get onto the system as quickly as possible, upload those chosen awards, and you can go in May if you want and upload your final, entry videos or credits. So yeah, just maybe plan that out with your teams. And then the eligibility period for the 2021 bookmarks. So for 2020, last year, the eligibility period was until the 14th of December. So we start on the 15th of December 2019. And that would usually mean that we would go until the 14th of December 2020. But because of the year that we had, and I think some particularly sterling work coming through sort of in the end of the year, start of Q1 this year, we have extended it for an additional almost sort of 6 weeks. So that takes you to the end of January 2021. So just over a year in terms of the eligibility period for the work that's legible for the 2021 awards. So hopefully that helps with your planning in terms of categories. And then in terms of entry fees, we have two sort of categories. The one is IAB members and then standard, so non-members. And for non-members, so anyone can enter the awards, anyone can be a judge at the awards. You don't have to be an IAB member, but we do like to give benefits to our members. So in terms of the non-members, your standard fee for most of the categories is 1,380 Rand. And then of course, if you enter now and before March, or just upload your categories, you can have the sort of the minus 10% discount. So that then is a 1,254 Rand. And so that applies across all the categories. So yeah, it's flat on last year's fees, no increases there in terms of helping out wherever we can. And then in terms of the IAB member fees, so again, it's also early bird, standard and late fee, all categories except craft and special honors. So that's a 25% off non-member fees for IAB members. So that's 1,035 Rand for all categories except craft and special honors. Craft is also 25% off the standard non-member fee. So that's 857 Rand. And then for special honors and special honors students, so that's the HON categories, you'll see them all packaged very neatly in the new document that Matthew spoke about, as well as on the Lurie site and the IAB Bookmark site. Those are free to enter throughout. So throughout the early bird, standard and late fees. So those are our fees, IAB member fees, lower than 2020. So yeah, you can get those. Those are on our website. Those went live along with the entries and updated categories this morning or yesterday. That's right. So that's the entries. And then just in terms of judging, I don't know if there are any questions on the entry fees or fees. You're more than welcome to do a shout out now. Otherwise, we can address them in the Q&A. All right. In terms of judging, so as you know, the Bookmarks runs a process through the IAB, which is a set of judging panels elected by the industry for the industry. So the work that wins at Bookmarks is work that the industry has elected to beat the benchmark in digital excellence. We're in the process now of finalizing both the jury chairs for the 8 panels and the jury panels themselves. Thank you to everyone who has shared their votes or nominations. Those are all in hand. They've been packaged and are busy. The committee is busy with those as we speak. And we look forward to making those announcements. So just so you know, for judging, there are 2, you have to participate in both rounds of judging. You can't just participate in round 1 and not in round 2, and you can't participate in round 2 and not in round 1. And that is to make sure that the judges who are overseeing your work throughout the period are managing that throughout the full duration. The remote judging, nothing has changed here. The judges are given 2 weeks to go through their work, that is in terms of the categories that are part of that panel. They go through your work, and that's a very simple process. They go through your work, and it's an in and an out or abstain. So what that means is that the judges will go through your work in terms of your online entries. They will review. They have to watch your videos. They have to read through everything in order to click through. They do need to go next. There's no ways that they can just pretend that they looked at your work. What is important, though, if you can imagine, I think the marketing panel last year had about 360 entries to go through. Some of those entries specifically in the marketing panel with online video categories had 15 videos to watch per panel. So remember, when you're doing your entry, think about if you've been a judge or think about being a judge and Imagine that they're going through your work and they're deciding, okay, this stays in, this goes out, and that is what becomes the finalists. So after the first round of remote judging, after those 2 weeks, the Lurie's team and the Bookmarks IAB have 1 week to process those, and we announce those finalists on the 21st of June. And then those are the finalists for the awards. And the finalists, those pieces of work are what is judged in round 2 by the same judges. We're really hoping, and it looks good in terms of the COVID case studies and moving into level lockdown 1, that we will hopefully be able to be, the judges will be able to be in a room together, those in Cape Town and those in Joburg through the VC format. Otherwise, we will certainly be arranging a workshop format via Zoom for the judges to get together and review and discuss your work. And that's a very critical part that happens on the 1st and 2nd of July. That's a Thursday and a Friday. And then we have 3 weeks to process all their judgments. And then we announce those winners on the night of Thursday, the 29th of July. At this point, even with the positive rollout of the government's response to COVID at this point in time, it is at this point a virtual awards, about an hour and a half, designated as a live TV show. So we look forward to sharing more of that with you as the campaign and the experience unfolds. So that's the judging process. And just in terms of our judges, and Rizuko referred to it a bit earlier, in terms of our new panel for the Youth Action Panel to judge Best Digital Student, our judges are elected with very key criteria in mind. It's a very big balancing act. And we're quite proud of the work that's done by the committee in that regard. If you have a look back at the judges from last year, again, as I mentioned, you'll see that they're over 50% female. I think we reached our target of a 45% diversity across race. We look at age, both young and more experienced in the industry. We look at your specialty. You can't have more than one. An agency or company cannot have more than 2 judges in one panel. And we also look at that across the 8 panels to make sure that we have a diverse range of companies, specialists, experience, age, race, and gender across all those panels. And as mentioned, it is through your nominations that we locate the judges. Then it is through through the committee that represents the industry across brand, publisher, agency, specialty, education, youth, and I mentioned specialty, sort of looking at the awards, putting those nominations together. That's signed off by our board, which is also represented by the industry and voted in by the industry. So we truly are proud to say that the judges, we spend a lot of time with the judges to make sure that the best people and the right people are looking. Thanks, Candice, for your comment in the chat. Agreed. Are looking at your work, and we do take it incredibly seriously. I think before we wrap up for Q&A, just 2 last pieces. And if you're lucky, although I'm sure we can get into some debate on the questions, you might be out of here much earlier than expected. There are some great assets for you to refer to during the entry period. We've taken you through a couple of them. You can go to the Bookmarks website to access the timelines, the categories, the entry guideline documents. That also links through into the Lurie's entry site, which Snare took you through in terms of how to enter, that fantastic dashboard that you can utilize to see that you are where you need to be. Just so you know, your award cannot be processed unless it's paid for. So sometimes you've done all the hard work on your side, but don't understand why it's you're not getting that final tick. You do need confirmation of payment in order for that to happen. So don't forget that final step. As I mentioned, there's a categories and criteria doc. There's the entry guideline doc with all our terms and conditions. And then there's the phone number, the magic phone number. And then, of course, Snare shared her personal address because she's just amazing. But you can also email bookmarks@luries.com or the bookmarks@iabsa.net to get hold of us. No matter, share any question, we're happy to help as well. And then in terms of other areas that we have to support, and I see a couple of pieces coming through the chat now. Yeah, just lots of shout outs for you, Snare. And Bonnie, we're going to come. Let's take your question, Bonnie. Go for it. Just turn on your mic and your video, if you will. Is Bonnie still there?
Bonnie just raised her hand, but she popped a message in the chat to say that she no longer has a question. So there we go.
Awesome. Thanks, Bon. So then I think we just wanted to show where else the Bookmarks turns up in the IAB world. As Matt mentioned, we have these 3 objectives on the left that have come out of our strategy to help for digital to move the industry forward. So in terms of showcasing your best work and talent in the industry, we obviously have the awards where we'll be showing your work and telling everyone about all the amazing people that made it happen. And we look forward to sharing the format and how you can participate in that. And we look forward to inviting you in terms of the various opportunities there to turn up at the awards. We have the IAB Center of Excellence series. So that is an email series where we pick our top 10 categories. So whether that's video, audio, etc. And it's all about the best way that you can improve your ability to do these, to excel in these centers of excellence through the IAB IP. And then we have a new platform called IAB Play that is on our YouTube channel. Please check it out. We'll be launching that on the 1st of April, and that is to showcase work in the top 10 categories. So looking back at our case studies and work that has won in those areas. So you can go and have a look and go, oh, I'd love to enter this, but is it the right type of work? Let me go have a look at some actual examples. So if you would have been a previous winner or finalist at the Bookmarks and you would like your work to be submitted into IAB Play, please let me know. It's paula@iabsa.net, and we'd be happy to showcase your work as part of that platform. And then in terms of the second objective, to define work we should aspire to and work that works. That is the point of the Bookmarks. It's not just great looking work, it's work that's actually delivered on your objectives and in your budget. So we have the Insight series. We're on our 2nd episode in March, and there are 8 more to go in the year. So check that out on our website, on the events page, and that's on the IAB website. Some fantastic pieces, and the Bookmarks does turn up there as well in terms of our top 10 categories. We've got our IAB open source that we're launching this year, as well as our white paper, so have a look for those. And then, as Matt referred to, the benchmarking study in terms of benchmarking digital excellence ongoing. And then as our third objective, a platform for focused learning and improvement, we are launching our Decoding Digital series. That is a podcast series. You'll remember the one we did last year with Johan Schweller, just looking at why people enter awards, and what's the point, why they're so important, what's the best way to win, what's the best way to benchmark digital. So we have those 7 episodes, and starting the next 7 along with the IAB Agency Council led by Camilla Clark, who's also the IAB seat on the Creative Circle. We have our IAB brand roundtables, trusted brand roundtables led by Jessica van der Westhuizen, also on our committee. She's from One Day Only, and we'll be sharing various pieces of information that the Brand Council deem incredibly important to beating the benchmark in digital. And then we have IAB Learning. So if you'd like to better your ability to understand digital marketing, you can go to our website and check out IAB Learning. Later this year, we are also learning, we're launching the IAB Global online courses here in South Africa for discount for our members. So yeah, lots of areas to kind of deliver on our objectives and how the Bookmarks turns up at the IAB and vice versa. All right, so I think that's enough from me. I'd like to open up the panel. I see we've got a question from someone who's attending, is anonymous. There's no problem with that. You are more than welcome to share your questions anonymously. So I'm going to read the question out, and then I'll just ask one of our committee members to answer it, or maybe I need to, or Snare. The question is, if we have a campaign that went live in October 2019 and ran until March 2020, will it be eligible? That's the first question. And then it says also a campaign that went live in November 2019 and will run to February 2020. So if we remember that our eligibility period is from 15th of December 2019 and it runs until 2021. So what we've got here is a question where the work commenced earlier than the eligibility period date starts, but it ends well within the eligibility timeframe. Matt, I don't know if I can ask you for your answer. Otherwise, I can certainly build on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Paula, in terms of the technicalities of it. I guess yes, if the majority of the campaign falls within the time period, that would make sense for me. I'm not sure what the T's and C's say for that.
Right. I think from what I understand, you're correct in that you can absolutely enter it. In terms of your metrics, I think the metrics would need to be, so if, for example, I'm making this up, this is probably a terrible example, but in terms of views, and it was a video that went live, a campaign or a social media campaign, you would need to look at those metrics and enter it according to the eligibility period. within your one pager, so you would say, it would need to be within the eligibility period. Within the one pager, you can refer to the full campaign and the results achieved, but the judges really do need to be able to compare apples with apples. So they will need to only be able to look at results achieved within the time frame. But please do acknowledge that and then go ahead in your one pager to share the full campaign results. I think the more transparent you are in that, the better. It just really enables a much more fruitful discussion with the judges around the table. And then you can acknowledge that. I hope that I'll help answers that question. Very, very important one in terms of the eligibility period. And one doesn't want to get disqualified or not go through, whether it's right from the beginning or in the first round of judging or second round of judging, just because of something like that. So it's good to acknowledge it up front, manage the entry within the time frame, and then share your results. Got a chat. Just someone, if you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to pop it in the Q&A. In terms of our committee, I know, Jessica, you judged and judged last year. Was there anything in particular that you feel you would like to share? Sorry to put you on the hot seat. Just felt like a worthy opportunity, just in case of, being a judge, looking at the entries. Is there anything that you feel could help the attendees today in understanding? And for those watching this video, I know a lot of people have asked for the link, watching this video at a later stage as a tool or tip for the entry process.
Yes, I think, Paula, you mentioned it earlier as well. And when you judge, you're obviously judging multiple entries. And I think it is important to sort of stand out. And I think it's very important and critical that all of the entrants, brands or agency entering really read through what the criteria is for entering. So, if it's a performance-based campaign, read exactly what you need to include. Very often quite an important stat will be left out or budget will be left out. And then it is really hard to justify or to vote in or out objectively because you don't have line of sight of the full campaign and the full scope. So I think it's really important just to read what the criteria is, write it down, tick the boxes, and just make sure that you've got all of your facts together. Also with the videos, very often entries they'll be the same video for multiple entries, and then it's quite, when you're judging multiple entries, you can kind of see, okay, this video is actually should have been entered into a different category because that's the way that the video was crafted. So I think read through what the objective is and make sure you craft your entry and your video based on what the objective is. And sometimes it will require to have multiple video entries, but you could just always tweak, the beginning frame or the end frame to make sure that it's relevant for that category. Because when you judge, you can say this, you can easily say this isn't UX, this is more UI, and the entry hasn't been crafted in that way. And then it does become hard to judge. And then typically what will happen is we'll vote you out because you haven't actually met the criteria of that specific category.
Jess, I think you've raised such an excellent point, especially for multiple, when one piece of work is entered across multiple categories. You'll see in the category doc, and hopefully much easier to read in the new format, down the right-hand side, it refers to the sort of 3 key areas for entry. So for example, in platforms where you would typically enter a website or an app or an e-commerce site, we're looking at creative excellence, 30%, innovation and technical accomplishment, 40%, and then of course your meeting your objectives or exceeding business goals and results, 30%. However, if you look at performance marketing, or if you look at, and the performance marketing panel who judge very much the channel category. So if you look at paid search marketing or display advertising, because display has moved now from marketing into performance, you'll see that there's a much bigger weight on meeting or exceeding business goals and results. And so it swings from 30% to 40%. And as Matt mentioned, this particular category, so the channels category as a group, every single one of the categories in this group category will be asking you for those critical pieces of information. So your objective that you needed to achieve and actually how you achieve that, versus something like craft, which is completely on the other end of the scale. So if I move over to craft, you're actually looking at, it's not looking at efficiencies or effectiveness. Craft is about the art of the work. So excellence in your copywriting, news and feature writing, in your research. And It's not looking for actual metrics or craft excellence in UX and how it improved upon things, but it's absolutely vital that you look at that. So the category criteria for craft is excellence and quality of work produced at 60% and innovation and technical accomplishment at 40%. So if you've got a piece of work like the one I mentioned in Candace's answer earlier, and it definitely works, let's say in platform and craft, you do need to have a look at your one pager and definitely that first paragraph, because that's what's grabbing the judge's eye. And if they start to see the same words pop up across categories that have different criteria, it does disadvantage your entry. So yeah, I think pay very special attention to the category criteria. And those are, they're in the document that Matt showed us earlier, and then they're also in the site that Snare took us through, so it's easy to reference, and hopefully, like Jessica said, you can build that into your planning and make sure you tick those boxes. Thank you, Jess. Matt, was there anything else that you would like to add? I see we don't have, maybe now's the time. Anyone else got any questions they'd like to ask? Maybe you'd like to ask something, because we will have people watching this ongoing during the entry process. Maybe something you've discovered in the audience that when you're entering, that was a really great thing for you to understand, that it improved your ability to enter or make things easier on the system. Or Matt, would you like to kick that off? Is there anything there you'd like to add?
Yeah, my point would be very similar to Jess's, just around laying out your argument for your entry really clearly. And surfacing the data as much as possible to, with clear headings and all of that sort of thing. So it's easy to understand what the campaign was about. Yeah, I think that's it. And also just, be careful when you're entering. You've done one amazing campaign and it works across 3 or 4 categories. Just be really careful how you enter those categories and the description you give each of them, so that the judges in those categories know what to evaluate. If it's looking at, this is a big challenge that comes with things like paid social, for example. Like almost every campaign has paid social as a part of it. But if you want to enter the paid social thing, you really need to talk about paid social and show why that was a critical part of that particular campaign and entry, not just the fact that we had some Facebook ads running at the same time. So I think that, those are just really important for each piece, because you're going to be compared directly to another campaign that was purely social paid, and it's showing all the right metrics and things, and it makes it quite difficult, despite the fact that your campaign may have been amazing. But as you say, you've got to compare apples with apples. So yeah, that's all on my side.
Great, thanks, Matt. Would anyone else like to add anything before I close off with just a note on special honors and just a call to arms in the industry? Let me see here on the chat. Bonnie. Thanks, Bon. If there's no one else who'd like to add anything, and there's still time on the chat, so please do share. And of course, we're available ongoing to answer your questions and to help you to enter the right categories. But I think just as we end off, a special note on special honors. As I mentioned, this category is free for IAB members, so you can enter as many as you like, and it won't cost you anything. And I think the costs are also, flat on last year for non-members. But I think particularly over the last year that we've had, I think this category is even more important. As Luzuko mentioned, we've got Best Digital Student, and we've actually pulled out an entire panel to look at that particular category on its own and give it the attention it deserves. We have Best Digital Youngster, Best Marketer, Best CTO, Best Contribution to Transformation in the Digital Industry, Pixel for Purpose, I think, and a very important category in the last, certainly the last 12 months. Pixel for Purpose I've mentioned, Best Online Journalist for the publishers, Best Individual Contribution to Digital Marketing, Best Brand, Direct Brand or Online Business, and then of course our aggregated pieces, which is Brand of the Year, Best Publisher, Best Digital Agency, you don't enter. But for the other 12 or 13 categories, while they are free, what we do find is that, and we want to celebrate the people who are driving our industry forward. But I think even having been from an agency or a couple of agencies myself, they do tend to get left to the end, because we're all focusing obviously on showcasing the great work that we're doing. But I think if you can pay special attention to celebrating the people who made this all happen, seeing how you can nominate them. We have included hopefully a bit more help in terms of how to enter, in terms of the category criteria, your one-page summary, including a LinkedIn profile, some testimonials to help raise support for your nomination for this category. We really want to do a big deal from the finalists, when the finalists are announced, right up until the night when we announce who these amazing people and companies are. So it's absolutely about celebrating the work, but I think for this year, let's just pay special attention to special honors and see who we can celebrate with in terms of the hard work done and celebrating the people who help drive the industry forward. So a huge thank you and to our committee who helped make it happen. If there are no further questions, we'll sign off and we've wrapped it up sort of in 60 minutes. So I think that's fantastic. We really appreciate the hard work from our committee. Again, a big thank you to our sponsors and to all of you for joining us today. So a huge thank you, and we wish you all the best for the week ahead. Off you go, enter. Have a fantastic time, and remember to email us with any questions. Thanks a million, guys. We'll be closing off.